You almost can't make this up. Bill Hummel and I and Noel Brodak, we've been planning this day for quite a while. And Bill has his project, his Pampa project, Brodak Cardinal, finished. And it's ready to trim out. And we thought we'd try to do some of it on video. Put a lot of trim tips on this video because this is what most people that would be building this type of plane, I think, would benefit from. Now, the only thing that sabotaged us is we've had a storm, and our whole deck is covered with these whirlybirds. And of course, it stopped raining momentarily, I think. But I just have a feeling we may be, everything is still soaking wet. We may be in for not the best day of the year, but we're still going to try it. They're coming down from Albany. It's about a 2.5 hour ride. And we're going to head up to Palisade Park and see if we can dedicate this day to trimming out this brand new plane, and part of this will be featured in Pampa, of course. But the fish love this rain. They just go underwater so they don't get wet. We've loaded up the car with the B-25 and Miss Ashley just in case, for some reason, the day does turn out nice, but you can see by the look of everything here. It's nothing but puddles and mess, and it's about 50 degrees. It's cold and clammy, but nothing deters us from this time of year. You're just so glad to get out of the cellar. So glad to get away from the belt crank machine or the carbon gear machine. Starting the time of year when things are starting to bloom in the yard, and if we didn't have that storm come through, probably the backyard would be looking pretty nice. In the next couple of days, we're going to hopefully get some work in the garden done. Seems like Karen's little project of making these little birdhouses last year, they've all survived, believe it or not. We had, except the one that was stolen. We had one stolen off our front lawn. I think the kids did it as a prank while we were in England. Time to go see Mr. Hummel, have a cup of coffee, get on the road before it starts raining some more. Let's hope we have a nice day. I don't know, the weather doesn't look promising, Bill. They're coming a long way. I hope this works out. You guys brought pontoons up. You should see my backyard. What a mess from the storm. Holy mackerel. But anyway, they made it down here. Bill Hummel, Noel Brodak. Look at these guys. They brought enough donuts. We could open up a donut shop.
Never undersell overkill.
Never forget the fuel of the donuts.
That's right.
Let's see what this is your new one, Noel?
No.
Is this the old one?
Sure.
Oh, look at that Cardinal. Woo! That looks beautiful.
Like that?
I like the little footprints on the outer wing. Very cute. You need a poop now. You built it from a kit.
Built it from the kit. All kit wood, with the exception of the flaps.
Okay.
And we put blocks on for the tips instead of the...
Okay.
Yeah. But everything else is exactly kit wood.
And Noel's full... the Noel can...
Oh, man.
Well, I don't want to give you credit for anything, Noel.
You got to this. If you're... We got the left-hand threads on the one end, the right-hand threads on the other end. So
right.
if your flaps and elevators are out, do this. You turn it a half a turn, either way.
Wow, cool.
That's just.
And what do you do then? Just lock it? These lock in?
It's so tight in here.
You don't even have to worry.
No, it's so tight in the.
You fiberglass the whole body. That's
fiberglass the whole body. I didn't fill. I mean, the weave is just hit with clear.
Yeah, but it's a nice enough finish for this type of plane.
Finish. That's Noel's tail wheel mount. That is just so bulletproof. There's hard points.
I like that.
Hard points.
You put a hard point inside the
hardwood dowel in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Each of the screws and then one for the wire to go into.
Yep.
It's a nice little innovation.
Yeah.
Excellent. And a nice. You know what I hate when you make the tail wheel out of 16th and you like launches the plane and fall on.
The nice thing about that is you can change the tail wheel if you want. You want it shorter or longer?
Great. Do it.
The Pro Stunt products.
Okay, you got the gear.
Okay. Again, hard points. Half inch,
right.
3/8 dowel, whatever we put in there.
Okay.
That solves the whole
And you
thing.
did this a la Tom Hampshire. He
Yeah.
recommended opening up the back of the muffler.
I've also
You got a tongue with you?
got a
Just
tongue with
try them both?
but
Okay.
I think we need the weight to balance
Yeah,
out. The
yeah.
engine is so light; it's 6.9.
Is this going to be doable? Is this realistic, or are we going to be changing it?
No, I think we're going to be pretty close.
Can you get your fingers in there on the rest?
He's got a stick with a slot on it to use.
Yeah.
I would hate to be recommended the new beginner on the block.
I know,
Do this.
I know.
But us experts are cutting off the
If I had to do it again, I think it would be up here.
Yeah, but you can reverse it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's only
That's
if
no
this
problem.
gets real inconvenient. And that's the only thing, boy. If we were at my house, I'd be putting a tongue
Is that
muffler
true?
on. But yeah, that's your.
Thanks,
Since it's going to be your fingers and you're an EMT, what are you worried about him? He drives an ambulance. Let me do something.
That's right.
Let's fly before it rains
Right,
some more.
let's do it.
Let's do it, baby.
Do it.
Anyway, did you weigh it all up, Bill? That it's
Sweetie, it's 39 and change. It's just under 40 ounces.
Okay.
As you see it right here, with an ounce and a quarter.
and it balances where it should.
Balance is
Rough on the wing spar.
just a hair, from the
Okay.
wing spar.
Yeah. And you're going to start with the hinges untaped.
Yeah,
Just do
Yeah.
as if a guy just built the kit
just built it.
and see how it goes and
Yeah.
see if it needs more or less or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
You take us through.
straight, and that's the biggest part of it.
Take us through the trimming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we want to go. Step one would be, in other words, if we were down by my house, which obviously we're not, would be just to get it in rough balance, and if in doubt, nose heavy, not tail heavy. Don't want to be tail heavy.
Yep.
That the lead outs are a little bit further back than you think they should be.
They are a little bit further
And
back than I think they
don't
should be.
start with them up in the front. And I think from there you need to get a flight and get some idea if the tank is shimmed right. Before you can do too much, you got to get some idea if the motor's going to be happy with that tank shim and that muffler and that prop. But I brought a bunch of props. I brought a whole stick of props. So
Good. Cool.
yeah, let's get
Cool.
set up and we'll see who else shows up today. With expecting Tom Hampshire, and Tom was the one did the design work on the motor, some of the design work. And we'll find out. He's got the the tank thing is adjustable, right?
Yep. We can go up and down.
Okay, so that gives you another choice. Props we got. Lines, you got, that's a 40, you only need 015s. Okay, so with a 40, of course, you can fly 015s, that's nice. That's very typical of what somebody would build from a kit. It's not a... Yeah, what kills me, some of these guys build a plane that's supposed to be a nostalgia plane, and it comes out 10 ounces lighter than the original guy built the plane. That's something in there is not exactly the same way. Yeah. I'll run over and get us coffee once you guys get a couple flights on it. And what we're going to try to do is walk through what I hope would be very typical for somebody, advanced level, intermediate level, that had built this plane from a kit, had a relatively straightforward finish on it, built it from kit wood, and how we would go about trimming it, and Bill is setting up the lines. Now, a real important thing, and I mentioned it to Bill, I think I mentioned it on just a video or two before this, was you don't want to start off without measuring the lines. Bill has measured the lines. So you have the eyelet's 57, it means you're going to be on 60 feet. Center of the handle, center of the fuselage we're going to start at 60 feet. They're 015s. If you have bigger than a 40, you really should be using, by AMA standards, 018s, although I know that's not the most realistic, up-to-date rule in the world. But you want to be legal. You don't want to be risking a lawsuit or whatever.
I got it's a 4-ounce tank.
Okay.
Haven't flushed out real well.
You said you had 4 ounces of coffee in there.
Well,
You need more than that to get me going in the morning.
Hampshire says 4 ounces.
Yeah. Tommy's 40 was running good last week. And, it's high, but what we're trying to determine is how high the tank is. If Tommy says 3/16, that's where I'd start. But everybody, you're going to shim the tank no matter what. I mean, that's kind of a given. And you've got these little...
Those are rubber.
I see them, yeah.
Washers.
And I have zip ties in case you need to go even further and just get a temporary shim.
We've tried a million ways to secure tanks on profiles.
You try. There's no end, yeah. No, you can put a little wiggle.
It's good wood, though.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know Noel Drimdak's little idiosyncrasies, Noel is one of the, I don't know, most fussy would be the right word about the weights of his model. and the weights of various wood parts. He left it, and on a clear finish, you can see the weight right through. Good thing it isn't 9-pound wood, you know.
Well, I supplied the wood. Bill cut the flap.
That's funny. So we can't pawn this off as a Brodak piece of wood, huh?
At the flaps.
No, at the flaps.
Flaps weren't quite what we wanted, so we put some special wood in for the flaps.
Okay. I'm not real comfortable with is that needle valve. And needless to say, if you're using a carbon or an APC prop, get some kind of finger protection, chicken stick, or electric starter. Do not flip.
Oh, you have to pick it up so the needle.
Yeah.
You may have to lay it on it. But I don't know. I think after a flight or two, we'll change that needle.
Maybe that's what we'll do, yeah.
Take a flight, because you may have to shim the tank anyway. I don't like this at all. Right, this will be the first flight. Actually, it's Bill's first flight of the year, I think he said that. And this is the little project that they'll be putting in, I think it'll be in Stunt News in the future. Maybe the next issue, I'm not sure. One of the future issues. You got a watch, Noel? A stopwatch? I'm trying to look at the wing, number one thing, see if we're going at realistic speed. Looks pretty realistic to me. Motor sounds relatively happy, but we still don't know about that tank shim thing. Now, whenever you start off a first flight, I like to be on the nose heavy side. Readout's a little further back than they'll probably wind up. This is about what the model should weigh, around 40, low 40 ounces. Looks like it's up inverted. I'm trying to look. We'll see what. Usually, rather than trimming looking at the wing too, if you just do some lazy eights and it goes soft inverted, you know you're going to need a flap tweak or a trim tab, or if it goes soft upright, you can kind of figure out which way. Yeah, it's down in level flight as far as I can see here. That looks down just a tad. Probably because of Noel's flap would be. Anyway, almost all planes need a little tweak or a tab or whatever. Looks like it's nice and stable. But again, we're not trying to do this like this is going to be an all-competition effort. We'd like to get this information we can use, and this would be about how to do it. Now, from looking here, the wing looks a little bit down, and I'm just through the camera lens looking with the other eye open, so it's really not accurate. I'll have to look at it in real time. But it looks like we may need a little tab on the bottom of the outboard wing, which is exactly where mine needed one. Now, if he were to put heavier wheels or wheel pants on it, that tab would get smaller or be non-existent, and we don't know. He's probably got the real light wheels on there, so that might be one of. Without the wheel pants, that can cause the vertical CG to be off also. But we'll look at that. That's the first thing. I guess because they didn't have to adjust the needle valve, you won't even have to today. I mean, if you can get a better motor run than that out of the box, congratulations. That's the work that Tom Hampshire and George Aldrich and among others have done to make that an instant motor for $100. An excellent choice for this model. I don't know what APC prop he's got on there, but we can look at that. We brought some wood ones. Oh, my guess is after watching this, step one is going to be either make a little trim tab or tweak a flap, depending on which route Bill and Noel decide to go. Again, I want it to be information that's usable too. actually to even beginner modelers. Now, let's even make it simpler than this. If a wing is down, in the dimension the wing is down, you want the tab on the bottom, so it pushes the wing up. Maybe we're oversimplifying that. You can always make, a little, I just had a, walked into a puddle. You can always make a little tab before you even get to the field with tin can stock, shim stock, fuel tank stock, and just scotch tape it on the wing just for 1 or 2 flights, or you can tweak a flap, and we'll see what Bill decides to do. Either way will work. So step 1 is going to be to get the wing level. We're going to try to get that level. And this is the prop we were using, I think, when Tom was working on it. It's a 10.5 APC.
They also have that 10.5, 4.5 APC.
But they'll slow it down a little bit if you want to slow it down later. It looks as solid as a rock out there.
Solid as a rock, windy. Seems to turn the same inside out.
Similar? Well, that's Noel's controls. He'll take full credit. I can see him writing the magazine article now. What is windy now? No, that looked fine.
Controls are smooth as silk.
Yep.
The motor one is pretty much equal.
You don't have to do the needle valve if you don't have to adjust the needle. It doesn't look like you're going to have to do much adjusting.
Where it is for now. All right, so you're going to bring the...
You want the outboard flap down a bit.
Down a bit.
A tiny bit. Or put a tab, whichever you feel more comfortable with.
Those are 3/8 those guys?
What's that?
Take a good look at it before you do it.
Look and see if it's level, and see if sometimes the elevators aren't level. If the elevator's crooked, it can be the same thing. You know, if you put a tab out here, it's the same as putting a tab on a wing.
Sure.
Do they look straight? I didn't look. I can't see, but let me kind of eyeball it. Put them in neutral. Hold it. They look pretty straight. They don't look bad at all.
Oh, you just want to make sure where they're at before you tweak. So you know what you did.
Yeah, when it was in the car, you used it. John DeTavio used to put this towel that weighed about 40 pounds on his outer flap, and every time we'd fly the plane, first flight, you had to tweak the flap. I said, why not just not put the towel on it?
Let's just do a little tweak here.
Give it just a little bit.
A little tweak.
Upward wants to go down, right?
Upward wants to go down, right?
Don't you love when you tweak it and it's the wrong way, and you say, what was I thinking? It's not going to need much, Bill. It seemed like it had enough corner with that CG location.
Yeah, we're pretty close to the CG.
Okay, because I got brought solder. Put a little solder on a tail wheel.
Yeah, we got a little
if you need it. Okay. So what we're going to try to do, of course, is get the wing dead level as the first thing. When that's not dead level, you're really chasing your tail. And I'm assuming you can't do it at that. When you get home, check the vertical CG. You could probably do the same thing just by putting heavier wheels on. I know those wheels don't weigh anything.
Those
very light. Yeah. My B-25 eats a pair of them about 5 flights in their hubs.
Wow.
They're light as can be, but they just have them for toast.
Yeah.
Motor ran nice.
Yeah.
The first run, it didn't seem to go too lean inverted, but you know what you have to do is have Noel time 5 laps one way and 5.
Yeah.
You can see that.
Well, give me 3 laps one way and 3 the other way.
Okay.
And then when you want to slow it down a little bit, try one of those other props.
If you just start out like you were flying a pattern, right?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. If you're comfortable, just do a big high pattern.
Okay.
It didn't seem to go lean toward the end of the flight or anything like that.
No.
If you
nothing funky going on there.
If you just start off like you're doing a pattern, okay.
But it is very important before you do a whole lot. Get the motor run roughly equal upright and inverted, and the wing level. And we can start any fine tuning, can start handle adjustments, or any of the other little things that he may want to try. I'll try to get this from downwind. We can see it a little bit better, but very, very straightforward. There should be no part of trimming a plane like this that would be out of the realm of an average or an intermediate model. But certainly you can't do anything. You can't trim the plane. You can't make any realistic adjustments if the plane isn't in other words, if we were running 5.5 little too slow for this kind of a model. A little fast never seems to hurt, but a little slow, just not a good choice. So all of these things for a first time out, I think we've got them at least where we want them for now. A little flap tweak, get the wing level. We're going to check the tank shim on this flight. He's going to time 5 laps upright or 3 laps. I like to do 5 and 3 inverted. See if the tank shim needs to be adjusted. And then from there on, I'm going to have to see where he's got the handle. It looks like this will pull longer lines. He can try his 2 feet longer lines, among other things. Keep in mind too that the wheels affect the wing being level. If you put heavy wheels on this, what's going to happen is they tend to straighten the wing out when it needs this type of a tweak. So you got to go back and forth a few times.
Now, it's my understanding that Bill and Noel are going to be writing up their experience here and for everybody in Stunt News, and I think that's a real positive thing. But if we learn anything new or anything we can't, we can add to the program, it will certainly help having it on video and having it in Stunt News.
Now, if you go back on the videos, you know Tom did most of the work on the motors. I just basically supplied test model after test model, his test model, mine, Rose, some of the other ones we had these motors in. But it seems like a good match for this plane. And it's a bonus that the motor is light. It's a lot lighter than some of the OS Maxes and some of the motors, certainly lighter than any of the ball bearing motors. And it seems like it has a bit more power than a Fox, and it's quiet, so kind of a decent combination. Now Bill's a good enough flyer that he can tell if the wing is level or feels level, but it's always good if you can have somebody else look at it. He's got Noel to do the timing. I'm looking like it's still a little bit up. Yeah, it's still up a bit. Needs a little more tweak. What he does is use little pieces of wood over the horn so that when you tweak it, you don't pop the horn through the wood. Just the overall look at this plane, it looks like it's going to be very easy to trim. But part of it is that it's an excellent design. Part of it is that Noel and Bill have built it probably relatively straight. And it's probably in pretty good balance to begin with. What I like about it so far, it looks like it's dead solid. It doesn't look like there's any place that I can see that it's really getting to be a handful. Seems to turn nice, stop nice. Again, most people that build this type of plane are looking for a learning tool and something they can compete in the lower classes with, be successful, learn from. Now, because of this being the best, it's really the best-selling profile kit of this era. So many have been built. We've seen a lot of them built. He's really heavy. We've seen them with 4 strokes. Seen them with various trim problems that people have turned them into Fock Wolfs and into just about anything. It's still a good overall design. The thickness of the wing, it's a Big Jim airfoil. A shrunk down version of a Pattern Master airfoil. One that's proven. Thousands of planes have been built with that airfoil. Many people have stolen it. Just grab that ribbon, go look at some other people's planes, and you'll see it's a very common thing to use that airfoil. But what it does, it makes for a very good match to this motor. I'm very impressed how nice the CG worked out with this. Now, if Bill, for instance, is looking, and he probably won't be at this point in the trim, just to get a little more corner, one of the things he can do is open up the handle. May not want to do that yet. If he wants it to have more corner at this point, you try it with a lighter spinner or no spinner. Or just the easy way, wrap a little bit of solder around a tail wheel. It doesn't take much that far from the CG to change everything. I still think he needs a little more. Well, we'll see. It's hard to tell through the camera lens with one eye open and one eye trying to look through the camera lens. Between Noel and myself, I hope we'll be able to get that really right on the money very soon, within 2 or 3 flights. Yep, maybe running a little short on fuel, but it's a cool day. A warm day, it'll run longer. A lot of times you can tell by how a plane glides. The outer wing going down already. It could be that he has a lot of tip weight in there. But it didn't look like it was dropping a tip to me. Almost, a little more?
Still feels.
Still down upright. When you land the plane, watch when it lands. As soon as the motor cuts,
Yeah.
or else you have too much tip weight. I don't think so. It's not banging it. Let me see how big you have to handle.
I got as small as I can get it.
Okay, well, that's a fine-tuning thing. What I'm saying, you got to get the wing level first. I like to get the wing a little more tweak, or
Let's take. I got an ounce and a quarter in there. I'm thinking it might be a little bit too much.
no, because it's up inverted.
It's up inverted, so it can't be. It's got to be flat tweak.
I'll tell you what, I got a little trim tab. You can scotch tape it on the bottom of the wing and then just take it off when you're sick of it.
Okay.
It's just, I just want to get this. He's giving it a little more of a tweak. It's still and you can tell on the glide. You know, when you're inverted, it still was up to me, just a tad. And if this is hard for somebody to do, like I said, you can make a little trim tab, scotch tape it on either the top or bottom. I mean, in the worst of all worlds, even if you just had a piece of tin can stock that you found at the field, just to get you through the day, then you can go home and paint it and make it pretty and everything. Or what we used to do is once you know where the tab is going to be, Jimmy Casale was the one who invented it, sink 2 blind nuts into the wing. Sink 2 little dowels, and then you can take it off, tweak it, and put it back.
Oh,
you don't need a scotch tape then.
Yeah.
I like the tape because it's just... It looks nice in here. It looks solid. You know what it looks? It just looks like it's not giving you any hard time here.
Yeah, it feels rock solid.
It's running a little faster inverted. It's running faster.
A little faster inverted?
So you want to lower the tank.
Let me drop the tank.
Drop the tank a 16th at a time.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's really going pretty fast.
Well, you want to put the other prop on?
Yeah, we can do that.
I timed it at
I'd rather you do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Get the tank shimmed and then put the prop on.
I timed it at 13.2 for 3 laps.
This inserts.
Okay, right into the hardwood.
Into the hardwood.
Okay, and it allows you to slide. I'd go a 16th or an 8th or something. You know where it was.
Yeah.
Very similar to the ones that Brodak sells, which work well too.
These are actually. I don't solder these tabs on anymore. I
JB
welded on. You clean the tab real well, clean the tank real well.
Sand it with 80 grit.
Sand it with 80 grit. Yep. All right, let's try this.
You don't loosen up all of the gunge in a tank when you do that.
Let's let me rinse out my filter here.
Flaps are retweaked. Still have the needle valve on the bottom. And the tank has been lowered. Noel's going to do the timing. And actually, we're just lucky it isn't raining. We're glad it's not raining. That's enough for me. Just get some flight.
What I'm trying to do, and it's always, there's 2 things here that you can do that would be a big help.
At this point, each time I'm recording this, I'm going to a different part of the circle. I want to see it from downwind. I want to see it from upwind. I want to see it from right now as it's going over in a wing over. I want to see it from, several different angles. And from each place I can see something that's going to be of some value, because what we're going to do when this session is over, we're probably going to go over to my shop, put the video in the VCR, and review. And while they're reviewing, they can write something for their article for Stunt News. Now, the information that you can get from a video that's absolutely and by the way, Noah's doing it right now, absolutely priceless, is you can time lapse. Video does not distort time. You can do shapes up to a point, but certainly not as totally efficient as you can do it with the naked eye. But the lap times don't change. Now, keep in mind a couple of observations. This motor is relatively new. At the end of the day, it'll have a half a gallon or maybe hopefully a gallon of fuel through it. These motors tend to, in the first couple hours, even though they don't require a lot of braking, they tend to get more and more friendly, more and more easy to needle. This one, they haven't needled it yet, not that I know of. And it seems to be holding a setting very well. It seems to brake real nice. Has a nice soft brake, which I kind of like. It's always good too in the beginning of trimming a plane. Now this is going a little faster than I would like to fly it, but let it fly fast. Because after you build up some confidence with it, you can always slow it down. You can always put it. I think he's got a prop of 4.5 pitch. Tom Hampshire's done a lot of work with the props. He's settled in on 2 or 3 or 4 that he really likes. Some of the wood props that I had that worked well, a 10.6, just an old Top Flight 10.6 worked well. The Brodak props, the wood props, they seem to work well. From this part of the circle, I don't see anything that really needs any attention at all. And Noel will let us know the lap times, the variance. Now, some people, and I don't do it this way, it's a good way to do it. It works for a lot of people. Time the laps upright, time the laps inverted. I would like to do it a different way. And the way I like to do it is by doing some horizontal 8s and listening to where the motor is braking at any given time. If it's braking at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I like doing it because the reality is the maneuvers are where I want the engine to come on and shut off. And I'm not real concerned about it being a little faster or slower upright and inverted. Now the reason they're not always the same is because of a plane with a Al Raby type rudder will tend to brake in the maneuvers just a little different because of the yaw of the plane. It's moving the tank away on down maneuvers. So this plane doesn't have to deal with that factor. We pretty much, just to make everything simple, just pretty much get the plane to where the upright and inverted laps, that'll be close enough for all purposes. But when it comes to ultra fine tuning a competition type plane, well, then you want to take into account the brake point, where the motor turns on and where it shuts off. And I think that's a much more accurate, that's a micrometer way of doing it. Doing it with laps is like a ruler way of doing it. Just a little finer tune when you do it in the maneuvers. Bill's got about 5 or 6 laps after the pattern. I think if it was up to me, I'd like to have just a little more. But keep in mind, it really is a cold day, and the air's getting bumpy already. Ooh, it lands nice. The feel level, Bill? One more tweak. No, what about the time? Was he getting better, same, or worse?
13:27. Well, it's half a second faster for 3 laps.
Half for 3 laps, okay.
Oh, so
It's not a lot, but you may as well get it fine-tuned, and once it's done, it's done. That tank looks like it's going to be just big enough. But it's cold, and when it warms up, it'll run longer. So, once it warms up, that's not going to be a factor.
Plus, I'm 10% on this too.
You could probably go to 7 or 5 or whatever.
tight on fuel.
But if you're doing tweaks, and I can see it's tweaked from here, it's pointless to go way too far and then have to go back. It's better to go, if you need to go a certain amount, it's better to go a little bit, and a little bit, than go way too far and then have to go back. Because how much are you down now? 16th?
Maybe a 16th.
Okay. My guess is you'd go one more of that same amount and you'd be there.
I think we need to go down with the elevators maybe. I think the outside elevators up a little.
We'll put the elevator down. It's going to do the same thing at the elevators? Is that I
think we just got a little bit of a, and I can see the difference, so it's...
Noel was probably talking to Wendy on the phone when he lined up the elevators.
No, I have a 5-year-old now that helps me in the shop all the time.
Yeah.
I just stopped using super glue, all the CYAs. Because Annie, she glued her fingers together. That's all
Oh, yeah.
This whole thing was done with Elmer's and...
I have a bird that helps me line everything up. He looks at it and goes,
Yeah, to be honest, Bill did the building. I was down there for one building session.
Okay. Bill did most of the construction?
Yeah, I helped him put the belt cranking away and show him that belt.
Okay, yeah. Just a little, go a 30-second, and the thing is, once you get it right, it'll be right forever.
Good point.
It's going to adjust the tank shim, and these are the 2 critical things. Tank shim and wing flap tweak or tab, and then we can progress. Although I'll have to be honest with you, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of things to do here. It's going to be a boring afternoon.
Do you love boring afternoons?
So often.
One thing I don't like though is the fact that
This is a standard 4-ounce tank. Now, I had somebody call me recently and say they couldn't get a 4-ounce tank on their plane, and I'm wondering, they changed something. This tank, you can get a 6-ounce tank on this plane. What are you talking about?
Yeah, sure you got.
What are we talking about here?
6 inches there.
easy. Yeah.
I don't understand. And it's a guy that's a good builder too. I don't understand what he was moaning about.
You know what you can do? Get a little pad, make out a balsa or whatever you want to make it out of under each end of the tank.
You could just roll up a piece of paper.
Just put it on there with silicone seal.
You know what? Take a piece of tubing and just put it under there.
What tank is that?
So
This is a 4.5 ounce.
just some of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark where the center of this is, so when you put you don't have to reshim it.
Yeah.
Okay, but before you do this, glue on. You know the stuff you put. It's got glue on one side and it's rubber you mount pictures with.
Yeah.
Put the whole back of that on.
Okay.
Put a strip of it on.
Yeah, gotcha.
I have some down the house. It's by 3M.
There's the 4.5 and all the room in the world there. We can easily go to a 5 ounce.
You could easily go. I don't understand what the hell he's talking
5.5.
about.
I don't think it'd be a problem at all.
No.
So
I have the
Unless he shortened the nose. Maybe he shortened the nose. I don't know.
Bill. I have the technology.
you have the technology.
Yes.
But I would have guessed it.
I've got some sheets of neoprene rubber at home. You just cut a little square of neoprene rubber and glue it on with silicone seal. And you got yourself a nice little pad full of paint to sit on.
Cool.
One under each end and you're all set.
Yeah.
It never hurts to isolate the tank. Any rubber is better than no rubber. Even a rubber band is better than just hardwiring it. Somebody joined us here with a park flyer, so this might be fun. Every once in a while we have a couple of guys. One guy has an A10 and a GB, and they generally fly over the grass, and it's a perfect morning for park flyers. Alright, so we got the third flap tweak, the third tank Noel's going to do the timing. I'll be looking for the wing level. reasons this is easier than it traditionally has been for a lot of people is because we're not dealing with a crazy motor run. If we were dealing with a plane right now where halfway through the run the motor went dead lean, you really can't progress this fast. What's helping us a whole lot is we haven't even touched the needle yet, or if he's touched it, he hasn't told me. And he got that right out of the box. It didn't come at the end of 60 or 70 or 100 flights. And it's right, it's where it needs to be to start flying the plane. So that in itself saves you a couple of weekends of twisting and tuning. And it's one of the reasons I really thought when Tom and I did the work and George Aldrich did a lot of the work, that the time we spent was going to be well spent because there'd be a lot of people that could benefit from just having a motor that cost $100 and going out and flying it without having a lot of other things to distract you while you're tuning a plane. Now the Brodak 40s have been sold out, the first two batches of course, but I'm sure that by summertime we'll have another batch, and they have turned out to be exactly what they're advertised to be. An out-of-the-box $100 stunt motor. Especially good for this size plane, maybe a Banshee, a Twister. They're not meant to take the place of the really high-performance 40s, the ball-bearing 9 and 10-ounce 40s, V-Maxes, those type of motors, not made to compete with them. Made for this type, size of plane. And I would guess, I think we're I'm losing track already, three or four flights. I'm guessing this is going to be a relatively easy, straightforward, lay out all the options, get it trimmed. And as time goes by, it can only get better. And it's nice to know you can bring a plane out on its first day and be flying reasonably good stunt patterns that you can upgrade your skills with. Bill does have a bigger tank. I'm not even worried about the tank because it's cold. As soon as it warms up, it was 50 when I left the house. As soon as it goes to 60, we'll get an extra 10 laps without even an issue there. But because he's got all the trim things done on the safe side, I think that's one of the big reasons. The biggest reason is the motor's not giving us any problem. And we'll eventually get the wing to where Bill is happy with it level. And I think three flights into it, we're well down that road. Doing something here to break up the monotony of it's either this or they send me for coffee. Anyway, always nice to have some alternative action going on at the field here. We always have some boats. The boat guys are in there beginning their season. The park flyers are starting to come in. And we only have the field for 2 or 3 weeks more, and then we're kind of done here. We move to the grass circles. You're getting there? More tweak, less tweak?
A
A little
little more tweak.
more, okay.
Yeah, we're almost there.
That was my feeling too, from what I'm seeing. Well, you know, you don't have 100 flights on it yet either. It's still better to do it a little bit at a time than overdo it and have to go back. That's the thing. That doesn't do the horns any good either, to be bending them back and forth, back and forth. Now, I'm not sure if this is flight 4 or flight 3. No, it's flight 4 or 5. But because we've been paying more attention to the trim, I'm trying to look through the lens cap and with the other eye open to see if we finally got the wing leveled out. But always keep in mind, heavier wheels affect that. When you change the muffler, you see where the muffler is on this? It's below the center of gravity. When you go to a tongue muffler, it affects that to a small amount, but it still affects it. Bill was saying it tracks real nice in the rounds, which usually means we're starting from a good place in trim too. And the plane is actually, see, now this still looks up to me. I don't know. From where I'm looking, it's still up. But it's still better to get on it little by little by little. And I think after this flight, they're going to send me for coffee. I see all the coffee cups are empty, the donuts have been eaten. And I am the water boy today. Looks like it's really flying well. 4 or 5 flights into this, and I'm not sure which we really have here. I would say this is relatively successful. And it's very easy to get spoiled when you build a plane that doesn't need a lot of trim adjustment. Very easy to get spoiled. Just like you just come to the field and fly. save you time to put that 4.5-ounce tank on, Bill. What I've encouraged Bill to do, and he's decided we're going to put the needle valve on top where I think it's a lot safer.
Keep that muffler out of the way.
Yeah.
Rich, would you mind?
Yeah, we have a professional IndyCar. What is he professional? What is this IndyCar? You don't even know what an IndyCar is.
You know, by the time I'm
We
finished,
call him Rookie Rich.
you know, after hanging out with
Well, he takes a lot of abuse.
the head
His wife doesn't even abuse him anymore. She says, just send him to Indy.
I'm all black and blue. At the end of the
He's
day,
bandaged up like the mummy.
From all the
beating up.
How's your
He
son
beats
doing?
me up. He's doing fine.
What's he doing? What are you getting into?
Well, right now he's got a job at the Richfield ambulance corps.
Well, good idea is when you do this, don't use pliers. Bill happens to have a nice little wrench that fits,
But he's waiting for customs to call him.
Oh,
U.S. Customs. My son used to do that.
Now you can be sure that you've moved that the tank shim's going to change a little bit too, because now your fuel load is on the bottom instead of the top. So just, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whenever you change from, it'll change a very small amount, but it'll change.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and change the prop, because I know, I know the prop is
You're done. That prop, you know, is a fast prop.
a little too fast.
But it's good for what we got done today. That's good. Noel's going to take a flight while you're doing things.
Yep.
All right, I'll give him a launch. Yeah. Well, Rich, you and I pull lines in. Noel Drindex, what shall we call this? Super Kestrel. Duper Super Pooper Kestrel. Is this the repaired one or a new one, Noel? This the one that you repaired? It's a rebuild. A new front end, new clutch. Any really excellent Steve Busso designs.
No, I didn't know you.
Okay.
10.5, 4.5.
These are those never flip them by hand
Right.
Okay.
What I do is I take
Yeah.
I try to knock the edges off all of it.
Okay, now you're going to go, this is lower pitch, same diameter, lower pitch to start with. And we're going to start with his stick of props and see what we have. I brought a stick of props too for the 40s.
I sell to Rensselaer.
And he's got the needle valve up top, so it'll be easier to adjust, and the fuel tubing will now be on the other side. I think as an improved version, it'll be just easier to get at the needle.
I sell to Lockheed Martin.
Funniest thing, one of the funniest things I ever remember recording was Noel, we were at the club field. Noel had a brand new, whatever, the PA 61 or 65, I don't remember. And he said, the one thing I like about this engine, it's always a 1-flip start.
65, right?
Well, anytime you say that, you guarantee it's going to be a 10-flip starter. And so everybody's standing around, and it didn't start. In fact, it's not starting now. But he hasn't flown yet this year, so we're just going to give him a flight to break in with. There we go. Get some gas and oil running through. Noel is definitely one of my favorite people. One of the people that has really impacted the event with what he's written. Muffled rear exhaust PA
seal valve now is on the other side.
Yeah.
You still have the black air filter on.
Black air filter. Went to the 10.5, 4.5 APC prop.
Lower pitch prop, okay.
Something 30 engine.
Alright.
You all set?
So you give me a lunch? Yeah.
You know, I want to...
Just a second. You get zeroed out, guys. Alright.
Some other flyers have just pulled in the parking lot. Looks like we're going to absolutely going to have a good day to trim this plane, and that's our objective today. Was hopefully when Bill leaves,
He's going slower now than he was when he had a top on there. 4 seconds. What is it? 4 seconds? 1571 feet by 47. About a 47 here.
this prop doesn't have enough pitch though. It's letting the motor unload too much. You want a little more load than that on. I think this is flight number 5, Rich. I'm not sure.
We definitely slowed it down now. Because it's running slower
Yeah.
in a 2 than it was in a 4 before.
It'll run longer now too. See, now it's going rich in outside maneuvers.
That is good. Need to open up a couple clips, Joe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Might have a good lap time when you finish doing
Well, don't forget, you moved the filter down so the fuel head changed some. When you move the tubing from the top of the engine to the bottom, it changes.
All it matters is where the engine tubing are located, not where the middle.
I haven't found that to be true at all. If I make a piece of tubing and I go up over the top, it'll change.
Better if it's going a little slower.
Well, you got about 20 props to try. You should see a snowmobile they arrived on this morning.
Look the cars out of the snow to It's almost
Tom Hampshire's here, Mike Costella's here. The crew is arriving. We have a really good support system here for Sherman Plains. And the weather's looking better and better as the day goes. Hard to believe, but it is looking better. Jim Damerell just got out of the hospital 10 minutes ago. He's back to fly. How's that for dedication?
Tore the bracelet off, stormed out of the hospital, and went to the flying field.
The heck with that rehab that the doctors recommend. Let's get down and let's get a few flights down by the flying field. Who needs doctors? Yeah, I could have told you that. How you feeling?
10.5 was a little bit. 10.5 APC was a little bit quick.
10.5 was a little quicker.
Like 4.
Did you ever go down to 4 on these, Tom?
No, that 4 they're not happy with.
Too low. No load on it.
Exactly.
What about those 11.4 woods that we were using on the...
No, you need the best for the tanager that I've been playing with is either a 10.5 master. I'm going to play with an APC today. I hadn't just because I hadn't put one on. Or a rev up 11.5 flip to 10.5.
Okay.
That seemed to be a happy one too. Okay. But with that prop though, you're within an ace of the truth anyway.
It was close, yeah.
What's up with the chicken?
I live with two women who decide how my airplanes are going to look. I have no choice in this.
So you know what?
They're going to paint chicken feet.
Chicken feet, yeah.
Bill, you know that bird feeder in my kitchen? The birds have turned it into a nest.
Have they really?
Yeah. Oh, that's really funny. So don't...
From the size of those prints, Bill must have a shot bird with about a 75-inch wingspan, I guess? I don't know. Chickadooley better watch out. Chickadooley's in second place, I'm telling you.
Tom Hampshire has just added some information to my little database. Now, I was always convinced, based on the test that we did many years ago, a couple of years ago, moving that tubing from the top of the engine to the bottom, especially on a Fox, on a profile, well, Tom feels the way I do, Noel feels no. It's not worth an argument, but it's certainly two different opinions. So you can pretty much try it for yourself and what it changes. In fact, maybe I'll get Tom to put his opinion on the video, and you can kind of figure for yourself. Noel's opinion is that it only depends on the fuel head, and that routing the line on top or the bottom wouldn't change anything. What I've experienced, though, is it changed the run in the maneuvers. Maybe it changes it a very subtle amount. But anyway, it's always good when you have two people with two diversified opinions. Listen carefully to both of them and then do a little test yourself. I think we're going to do that test, just so I'm convinced in the near future. Or in the case of Tom has a plane here today. We can do it with his plane right now. But anyway, the Brodak 40 is running like just about as good as you can expect a new motor like this to run. Bill's been very happy with the initial trim flights. He's been changing the prop between flights to find the one or two that he's going to like the best. And we've had some other flyers come in here. In fact, one of them has Bill Hummel's old plane. So it's actually going to be Bill Hummel Day here today. And the amazing thing of all is the weather has held up. The weather has pretty much held up better than I thought this morning when I was looking into the fish pond. I was thinking time to bring an umbrella. I'm not sure. Costella's here with Bill Hummel's old plane right there. And seriously, Jimmy is out of the hospital, and we hope he's going to be feeling better being out. Definitely has to be better being out in the sunlight than being in a hospital ward. It's the stock Thunder Tiger 36. The one you buy from Tower Hobbies?
No, well, it's the one I got it from Randy.
But it doesn't have the trick liner.
It doesn't have the trick liner.
Okay.
I got one of those too, but I haven't really broken it in.
For what Tom did during that flight, you could see Bill had some goobers come up into the fuel filter. When you get a minute, I want you to explain the thing about the Fox on tape, because that probably would apply to a lot of other motors.
Okay.
Tom has the head gasket out of his, and that's certainly a doable modification for...
Well, mine is decked too.
Okay.
This is about 33, depending on how the tolerance is stacked. This is about 33, 35 thousandths. Mine is decked at 23.
Okay, 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, the gasket is out and the head has been turned.
Oh, okay.
It's been
Just higher compression.
Higher compression,
Okay.
which takes the way this thing was set up originally last winter. It's designed to do this, and if you're going to drag 50 ounces
Yeah,
with it,
if you're going to
then you
take
have-
and tow a boat, sure.
and the price you pay is it's more sensitive. It has the props are much more critical, and the needle setting is much more critical, and you have to be right on all the time. This is aimed at this part of the market. You put the prop on backwards, get the setting off by a quarter of a turn. It's still supposed to work.
Now, what's your feeling if we were to route the tubing up around the motor and then down? Would that be anything
Let's just
significant
suppose
happen?
this is a Fox 35.
Okay.
Just with a bypass port on this side, no
Right.
other way to feed the cylinder. If you accelerate the engine downward, what happens is all of the oil droplets that are inside the crankcase accelerate faster than the vapor that's in the crankcase, so they all get thrown into the bypass. They get swept up into the chamber and they put the fire out. That's why a Fox coughs on an outside turn.
Yep.
And away you go. If you run the line, the right way to do it is to plug the bypass with a piece of popsicle stick or some JB.
Right.
Reduce it to half of its cross-section or so.
Right.
That gets the mixture velocity up and everything stays in suspension. You don't get the droplets in the chamber. If you don't have that and you run the line around the bypass side of the engine down here and then onto the spray bar, what happens is the weight of the fuel in the line in a downward turn accelerates away from the crankcase volume and tends to lean the engine while the droplets are being thrown into the bypass and up into the chamber.
And it relieves it some amount anyway.
Compensates for it somewhat. It's a little better. It's nowhere near as good as having the bypass stuffed. Same thing happens with a Schnurr-ported engine, but to a much lesser degree, because the primary feed are the fore and aft ports.
Right.
You were saying a tank needs to be lined up with a Schnurr?
No.
Tank needs to?
No, the tank needs to be lined up. And there's an article, Fancher wrote an article about 15 years ago in Model Aviation where he, in my opinion, he really nailed it. What you're after is to get the tank lined up with the effective center of the pumping action of the crankcase volume. And that may be the volumetric center, and it may be someplace else because there's momentum effects. You're continually stirring this stuff into a milkshake inside. That is always cut and try. You can start with 1/8 of an inch or so above center, and then you better...
It's almost always above center, not below, though.
Unless you're running a greenhead K&B with the exhaust on this side.
Oh, that reverses. Yeah, of course, the transfer's on the other side.
Exactly. The bypass is on the other side, so you again want to get the tank into the effective...
But it all kind of makes sense. It's logical and it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
You just need to know that that's one of the possibilities.
It does. It just... Why?
I was of the assumption
Why did it
that
take us 20 years to figure it out if it's so simple?
I keep hearing about how brilliant all these old guys are. Maybe they was just as dumb as us. Or worse.
Everybody always said center of
Maybe we're
Venturi.
dumber than them.
Turns out that's...
No.
Tommy said that's not...
No.
It may be the center of Venturi, but doesn't necessarily have to be.
No.
You know?
Even with an upright or inverted engine, look at a G21 Tiger. The needle valve is up here someplace.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any difference. You can put a G21 46 Tiger in a Nobler, a Falcon, or whatever. Forget the needle valve location. You want to be right about at the top of the backplate bolts, because that's the center of the effective pumping volume of the crankcase.
A stock Tiger 51 has the needle valve way up above.
Way up.
Way up in the
Don't even
Venturi.
worry about it.
Don't even worry about the
Don't
location
even
of the
worry
needle
about it.
valve.
Start out first attempt with the feed pipe right about at the height of the back plate.
Cool. Okay.
And then, of course, shim. But one other thing that I see a lot of guys doing that wastes an awful lot of time, you can get by just bench running the airplane in your driveway at home. Hold it upright, tack it. Hold it inverted, tack it. You can get 95% of the way home just doing that. You don't have to come out and have it quit 5 times inverted.
Flip it inverted and it shuts off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Ask me
How'd you learn that one?
You see the weeds over there?
The hole in the weeds over no, Bill. Last year.
Tell him the Cardinal, now to be famous, the Cardinal.
You guys are all hard.
You look at this guy and he doesn't look like a world-class runner, does he? You might think the Budweiser horses wouldn't run this fast. Boy, when the motor shuts inverted, he ran, put the plane right in the weeds. He actually wound up putting a Cardinal in the weeds. Didn't do any damage at all.
Flying along inverted, right here.
Right here.
Now what do I do?
You wouldn't think that a short, fat white guy could run that.
I looked at their feet. You know what he looked like? A hamster. He looked like a hamster. He ran to those weeds. I never saw a hamster run.
Inverted, backed away from it, whipped it, and put it in the bull rush.
Put it in the weeds, no damage.
With a little scratch on the rudder, and a little scratch on the outboard elevator, and a little tiny, dinky 30-second pinhole in the leading edge planking, 6 inches from the body on it.
And he says, if I don't go get him coffee, he's going to do it again. So when I come back, they'll say, you missed all the action.
All right. Practice.
All right, Trim, let's get this going.
No,
Us, Rich? Bullshit? No.
So there you have it. Everything you ever wanted to know about tubing around the motor by
Those bull rushes. There's a hole in there. Oh, yeah.
Mike is such a high-powered executive. He even talks on his cell phone while he's flying. Tom's doing a little fine-tuning here on the needle. Now that it's on the top where I think it should have been all along, but... Yeah, I guess we're just thankful for a good day here. And that this seems to be going in the right direction. Costello has agreed to be the first person on video that's going to answer his cell phone and make a phone call to President Nixon. Maybe you should call Mike's train house up while you're flying a stunt pattern.
What I'm thinking is that these things are timed with 7-degree blowdown, which was a
Jimmy told me he thought I needed a little tip weight.
Okay, that was
Tip weight in this? I'll take a look at it. Okay.
The wing was up
I
both ways.
got tip weight.
I'll try one of you. I'm going to try
You put a quarter-ounce in?
and just rich it up. Let's just see.
And then we're going to do it.
Well, remember, the longer you make the lines, the more tip weight you need. That's a real...
know that.
Oh, yeah. You add a foot to the lines, you better add some tip weight.
Try one per line today
Yeah.
for your ear.
I mean, if you shorten the lines, you can take some out, but it's always going to be in balance. Would you agree, Tom?
Huh?
You go, say, to 5 feet longer lines, add some tip weight?
Oh yeah, always.
Okay, that's your general rule, too?
Yeah.
Mike was walking by with his cell phone under it. He looked like Quasimodo of the stunt world. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Rob, too, by the way.
Was it Rob?
Scorched to my life as well as he is to yours.
Oh, I'm going to kill him. If I could tell that story on video.
Is it at your house or is it in the truck?
Oh, I'm going to kill him.
Oh, I was thinking I was going to use it. I said, well, if you're going to use it, Rob, come to Powell Park.
He makes me pick up this 1,000-pound-plus wall unit. Then he says, I can't be there. I'm with Mike Costello. We're working. And I find out he's in the go-go place.
See, the thing with Rob and me.
Then he can't be there when I install it because he has a bar mitzvah. Then I find out he wasn't at the bar mitzvah either. And I'm installing this giant wall unit.
Now,
Okay, right about now the phone is ringing for Mike. President Nixon! President Nixon, I can talk on a cell phone. Don't worry. Oh man, if you only knew. Now my son-in-law Rob works for Mike, and he sticked me with this wall, delivering this wall unit. The thing is 1,000 pounds, 10.5 feet long, and he just happens not to be there the day we're going to install it. All right, back to the Cardinal. They're over there changing a prop again, or a fuel filter or something.
I think they decided that the problem was overheating.
Well, they took the back half off the muffler for a test.
Well, they got a steady run out of that. They just didn't have a
I think he should just put the tongue muffler on, get rid of the noseway too. He's familiar enough with the plane now.
Rooney's been telling me.
We'll run this and then we're going to try the tongue muffler.
There was a woman.
Okay, this run he's got the speed down to where he wants it. All they did is take the back end off the muffler, which is an easy thing to do. There's one screw holds it on. But I still think the tongue muffler would even be better than this. And as you can well imagine, we're all sitting around here having just the best of times, making good use of a day. And even a bad day at the field is better than a good day at your job. That's for sure. I made it up. So Mike, did anybody call while you were flying? Did you have the cell phone on? You should make a fake one. Just talk to. I'll call you when who's got another phone? While we're flying. You know, that'd be a good thing to do if you do, like, get a guy all nervous while he's flying, call him. Tell him there's an emergency at his house. That's a nice combination he's got on this right now.
configuration in it.
Okay, now it's got just the tube, the longer in the back.
Yeah, the volume is 1 3/4 as long.
Okay.
And then the tube, you can see this is, I started with a 3/8 outlet, and I didn't think that was enough, so this is a 1/2-inch ID outlet.
Okay.
Just JB welded onto the back, that's all.
Okay.
That's, you know.
And the chicken hopper runs okay?
Yeah, chicken hopper.
And it's rubber mounted or plastic?
It's on pieces of soda pop bottle.
Okay. And the clamp mounts are working okay for you?
Golden.
Okay. I just got another run of those in.
All right. These are not official Windy.
Oh, bootleg.
These are bootleg.
Can you imagine a man copying my product?
Except I had it on that magician years ago. So I don't know who stole from who. There's no honor.
It doesn't matter. We both lost money on it.
How do you make a big fortune and
Neither one of you guys seem to know a patent attorney.
There's a good way to make money in control. Go out of business and get a job in Home Depot.
Start turning burgers at McDonald's.
Home Depot. Officially known as the Phragmites Weed Whacker. Oh, man.
Now,
let's see how you got that set up.
Took it out with the new post rod breakage scoop assembly on the nose.
Oh man, that's you have to put a radial cowling on there.
Trying to shovel some air past it. Okay,
yeah.
Took it out last Sunday for the first test flights after the dreadful winter of '03.
Okay.
Overheated again.
Yeah.
Okay, so these outlets here were oblong in shape. This is all new cutout, and this is all new cutout.
Jesus. So
we're hoping.
Wow, if that doesn't do it.
If that doesn't open it, the only other thing I can think of is that Waco scale ship that I have has an engine mounted upright with a plenum behind through and behind the firewall, feeding a box that goes down through the middle of the airplane and goes out through a scale radiator cooling outlet scoop that faces backwards. That thing, it has a Tiger 60 in it. I've never been able to overheat that, and I've flown it on 95-degree killer August
I
days.
can't believe that you could overheat this now with all that
So
open
what?
air. You may as well hold that out the window of a car.
Yeah, it has a cowl on it that may have that may not have, the holes are down to about here.
I mean,
so
the hottest point on this is right here, and it's right out in the open. This is what gets hot, not the crankcase.
So we'll see.
I'll be very interested.
Now,
Very interested to see.
If I had a brain that worked when I plugged it in, if I remember, I'd have brought the 4-stroke box today. So
I got my
lines and a
stuff.
starter and yada yada. I forgot.
I got
the 4-stroke
lines.
box.
I'll give you a set of lines.
Can you handle offset leadouts?
Sure, of course. We'll just go take a set of lines off one or the other planes.
Plug a set.
I mean, you want to test it. You're not going to win the Nats today.
Oh no!
Anyway,
I just like to run a flight just to see, and the overheating is still. I had 2 flights on it last weekend. First one was fine. The second one, 2/3 of the way through, it's going sour, and I can tell there's no air.
You're sure it's not just an air leak up on the intake?
It could be. It's a now you see it, now you don't deal. It's very much an intermittent problem.
That gets warmed up so much. Guys are taking their sweatshirts off. Look at this. We even have people in shirt sleeves. Wow. If you have a problem dialing your cell phone while flying a stunt pattern, just dial 1-800-MIKE Costello. Bill finally found a way to make my day interesting. All right, put it on the video, you bum. Let's see what happened here. Did the screws I saw it was loose.
JB, I don't know.
The
One
JB
joint
weld
failed.
broke.
Now, whether the bottom bracket unscrewed or the JB weld
sorry.
failed first, or
Well, we're going to go get the pizza while you guys figure out if the JB weld let go or what. Hey, and don't take the fuel out of that tank.
I don't know, the same guys built that tank and built the Challenger. I don't see what the problem was.
I don't know. The Challenger had no
They
problem.
almost never fall apart.
Well, I'd be writing about this in the column.
Yeah, really. Look at that.
This is,
with that tank setup, though, we got to figure a way to get better fuel economy out of that engine. It's never going to make it.
yeah, you know, I was afraid it was going to come off and go right through Noel's wing, rake his whole day complete. Noel's not prone to accidents here. Tom, we're going to run up and get the pizzas.
Yeah.
We'll be back in, I'm the pizza delivery boy today.
Wait a minute. How much? What did you get? $30?
I'm getting one slice. $29 profit.
We're going to believe that you're going to come back on time with the pizza and the
Forget it. When I go with Jacobone, we never come back on time. Pizza delivery boy coming up.
With 2 cuties.
What I want to see is, it let go from the copper, but it didn't let go from the... Now, you see why it let go? See how smooth that is? Yeah. If you were to take that Dremel tool and just... It might have been a lot... What happened here, though? This was doing this. Here's why this broke.
Yeah.
In other words,
Too much.
if you had 4 of these, it wouldn't have a broke. Or 2 big strips.
Yeah.
But
I got things on the end.
now, there's a good thing. When you write this up for Stunt News, this is a good thing to write. For one reason. Somebody has this happen, and that tank's full of fuel and hits them in the face. Wow. Oh, yeah. Or hit a Stello in a cell phone and ruin his whole day. No, that's an important thing to know that that's not a good idea. That's good. I feel like at least the rest of this day was kind of boring, but that really made it worthwhile.
Oh, good. I'm glad we can make your day.
We'll be back with the pizzas in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, thank God, man.
So Bill Hummel, he's so happy he's going in the gas tank business. He decides,
That's right.
in the world of rock stars, this would be called living large. We're living pizza right here. Oh man!
Any better than this?
Pop the lid there, baby. It's no good till you eat it.
Pizza or what?
Yeah, everybody gets a pizza. Look at that.
Look at that.
Hummel, is that how to trim a plane? Pizza for tip plate.
To give you that extra added
This is what it's all about.
We have, not only do we have pepperoni, but we have cheese.
Notice the tank's gonna go right in the prop. second tank today. Bill's losing a tank. Man,
Remind me never the amount of tank.
Bill's losing it.
Bill's tank business is taking a hit.
Remind me never the amount of tank like that.
That's the truth. Well, there we go. Camera he's got. Yeah, but this is stuff if people do it, you can kill somebody with it. Okay, Bill is now on the third fuel tank down of the day here. So, oh well. But they really do have the motor kind of. He's real happy. He's got a BYNO prop on here now. 15.6. What prop did he wind up with, Tom? What's a BYNO 10.5? 10.5 BYNO.
He's still going 4.5 seconds long. He's going way too fast.
Don't you have one with less pitch?
I think that whole prop on you get that to 5, you're in trouble on a wind like this.
Well, we're gonna, the rest of the day, this is just gonna probably be prop testing, and Bill is gonna give us a lesson in how to make a proper tank mount for your profile Cardinal. For the last 4 or 5 flights, and we haven't videotaped them because Bill hasn't lost a fuel tank in 3 or 4 flights. He's real happy now the way he's got the engine running, and with that prop, it's a 10.5 BYNO. Happy enough that he's going to longer lines. I think these are 60. What are these, 62s? Bill? 62-foot lines?
These are 60-foot island to island, so it'll be 62 and a half feet.
Okay. So all the initial flight tests showed that this is probably going to be just fine. This plane has trimmed out like a dream. It's been an amazing day.
The motor's running pretty good. The prop seems to be pretty...
This red-winged blackbird has been eating our pizza scraps for the last half an hour. You say, man, it's great that you guys bought 5 pizza pies. Amazing. There's a world going on all around us. Electric flying, boating, birds eating, cardinals flying around. Bill's really happy with his plane so far, so guess the worst thing of the day was the tank mounts. Now this is funny. The last time Tom was here, he wound up inverted in the Phragmites. Well, we noticed as he's fueling up his plane, all the birds are moving their nests. The young birds are moving across the parking lot. Oh, man.
Boy, friendship is a wonderful thing, I think.
Even those toolboxes to me.
Oh, look at look at this. Look at this.
The neatest toolbox on earth.
I feel like puking when I see somebody who goes like this. This is not the hobby we're in, Noel. Like everything's in little baggies and stuff. You see the baggie in my toolbox? It's used.
It's a fresh baggie.
Yeah, he replaces the baggies every
See
day.
through the plastic.
Oh, man.
Boy, that alone is something amazing.
Get me some grease. Wipe your hand under the car where the drive shaft is.
Let's see the drawer. Let's see underneath the drawer.
Look at the props. Holy crap.
And it probably, where's the index?
Look at this. Oh, I gotta cut my fingernails. Oh, man, I just want a manicure when I see something like that. What else has he got?
Look at all these.
What else has he got in here we can harass him for?
Because we just took the heat right.
Look at this.
Some other
The guy that did brain surgery, the guy that does brain surgery doesn't have a toolbox like that. Look at these little fuel cap. Take some of these. He won't know they're bad. He probably has this on computer. He inventories it at the bottom. Whoa! Whoa! Look at this new tubing. I didn't know they even made this stuff new.
Oh, I want a copy of this video. This is worth its weight.
Oh,
Look at that.
Oh my God! This is a
We are not worthy.
No,
Working on you.
We are.
no,
I saw that already.
No, that's pricey. You got any other toys?
We saw that too.
Everybody wants to see the handle. Everybody look at this. Is machined from a solid Lexington. Okay. You know that probably there's an F-16 flying somewhere that doesn't have a windshield because no one made a handle after that windshield. Oh, and WD-40 just in case, you know, the zipper on your pants gets rusty. Holy mackerel. Look at the fuel jug is even clean. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. What's the pressure thing for, Noel? I don't ask.
That's temperature.
Oh, temperature, okay.
That's how he.
God forbid we should fly without knowing what temperature it is. Holy
It's
man.
70 degrees.
It is. It's 70 degrees. I'll eat the thermometer. 70 degrees. Not in my body. It isn't. It's still cold out here. How much pie is left? I'm getting hungry. Harassing people uses a lot. We ate all the pie. No, there's actually 2 left. It takes a lot of calories to keep a harassment machine going. Oh man. No, that is the toolbox. You ought to make an article about making a proper toolbox. Wow.
The nails that you normally use to hold the stabilizer on.
Yeah.
Nails? Those look like stooge nails to me. Those are stooge nails, you're right. No.
Tell me this isn't the neatest toolbox you've ever seen.
It certainly is.
Oh, look at those. The human race. This is Mike Costello's toolbox. On the other bookend of humanity. Holy.
Why do I need more than this for?
I know, because you borrow everything from people and don't give it back. That's why. You know, you could buy this stuff in a store, too. They actually sell hobby supplies. Sell is the key word here. Baby birds are out of the woods now that Tom's going to take another flight on the Sato. Oh, man. Calling all geese, calling all geese. Oh, man.
Without the proper starting stuff,
I'm
this
afraid
thing
to
is
ask.
a pain in the teeth. We shall see.
He didn't bring the NASCAR van with him with the special everything.
I forgot the 4-stroke toolbox.
Well, you want to go on Stuka Stuntworks and find out what the latest setup is. See what everybody's doing. Oh, man. Oh, God.
That didn't work.
Ooh, sounds good to me. Next time we'll try the battery.
I don't know.
Oh, man, I'm going to read about this on Stuka Stuntworks. Unbelievable.
It's not linked to
It's the bird within 200 feet of this circle now. Unbelievable. They know it's coming. Well, we've gotten a lot more today than we bargained for. We've learned a little bit. Had a lot of pizza, had a lot of fun. I think it's safe to say the Hummelized Cardinal is ready to fly for the flying season coming up. They're setting up to do a little photo op for the Pampa thing. You know, one of the things I always thought looks nice, you put the plane in the water. No shortage of water here today. That would make that's a nice shot right there. You can see the red coming right there. I don't know if you can see it on the video where the tinted silk span, inked silk span, I should say. So you feel like this was a worthwhile day, or?
Oh, when you can't take enough.
Okay. You had enough pizza?
Enough pizza.
What time are you guys going to want to roll back? You want to go play trains for a while, or you want to do it next time?
Yeah, it's up to my driver here.
Okay.
Whatever he needs to do. I don't know what plans he's got. But no, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, we enjoyed helping Bill and Noel, and we had a good experience with the Cardinal. And I wanted to go through some of the things you want to think about, because a lot of people that have built this plane have had exactly the same questions, and the answers are probably pretty close to be the same.
the basic trim of the airplane, getting it from it's just been painted to where it's actually had some flights on it. And these are the things I consider to be in some kind of relative order. Before you can really trim the plane, you've got to get the motor, the speed of the plane to what you want, and the motor running. You can't have halfway through a tank of fuel, the motor goes dead lean. You can't have a terrible vibration problem where the motor is inconsistent. Getting the powertrain, I guess, would be a better way. Getting that sorted out should be the first part of any trim package. And that was kind of a given on this motor, even though Bill tried several props and several changes in back pressure. That's one of the things that seemed to be very easy to do on this model. And the second thing that really should be a significant thing that you want to deal with before you get into anything other than the basic trim, and we're going to try to do all the basic trim things here before we get anything really high-tech or advanced done. We need to have the wing level. Now, if the wing isn't level, you have several choices. Let's assume this plane is flying this way. This is the outside of the circle. And a lot of people misunderstand this. They think, and in Bill's case, he preferred a flap tweak. Well, we want a flap tweak. It's always better, in my opinion, to leave the inner flap level with the elevators and tweak the outer flap, and I think most people assume that that's the way they like to do it. But that outer flap then, until that wing is level, you want to do it little by little. The other way, and the way I Bill preferred the flap tweak, is with a trim tab, because I can move it, take it off, adjust it. Again, I'm dealing with the outer wing, and I want it on the back of the wing, not on the flap. I want it on the back of the trailing edge of the wing just before the flap hinge line. Tends to push that down. Now, an alternative way, a way that we used to use years ago, and I think maybe a lot of people still use it, is they would leave the last piece, let's just pretend we had an old Vico Chief wing. They would leave the last 2 or 3 inches of flap on a ball link, both sides, so that you had an adjustment and you could make the equivalent of ailerons out there. And then what you would try to do is put one up, one down. In this case, this one would be down. The reason I never liked that is because it didn't benefit as much as putting the extra drag on the outer wing always seems to make a little more line tension as a free bonus. This way, the drag at this side is actually pulling the model in at you. So my feeling is what Bill did was fine if you're going to use the outer flap or a tab. Either way, and this would be my third choice, to get the wing level. Now from this point on, assuming the motor's running, the wing is level, now you can work on trimming the plane. Now you basically have all the basic stuff out of the way. And the first thing I would want to deal with is the turn quality. Now, a lot of people misunderstand this. Almost every plane will have a CG location. Let's say this is the CG. It should be marked on the plans. If it isn't, you can figure out roughly 15% of the mean average chord, between 15 and 20 for basic advanced level flying. Well, what we want to do, if we move the CG forward by adding nose weight, a heavy spinner, a heavier motor, the plane is going to gain stability and lose some of its ability to corner. Well, there's always a happy medium. If you keep moving it further back, just keep wrapping solder on a tail wheel, it's going to turn, but it's going to be uncontrollable. So the first thing we like to do is set what we feel is a proper CG. Now, once that's set, there's a lot of people, and I'm just going to remember Al Raby as the most obvious one, who preferred, Jimmy Casale, another one, preferred having the CG really far forward and a large handle. A lot of people that expert level flyers like Billy Woolridge probably has that type of a setup. Have the CG further back, and I think Paul Walker, it's safe to say that's his trim philosophy, a little bit further back, and a little bit different handle spacing. Now the handle spacing is always going to be relative to the CG. As you move the CG further forward,
the handle is going to get incrementally bigger to get the same effect. Well, this could go on forever. But as long as you know that, an example is if you add nose weight, you don't want to make the handle smaller. As you're adding nose weight or moving the CG forward, you're probably going to want to open the handle spacing up. You're probably going to want to make the arms shorter too. Let me just explain that. So this little drawing, I think, will illustrate what I'm talking about. And these are just rough directions to go in. It's a rough road map. A real, relatively nose-heavy plane, cable spacing wide. Average, somewhere in the middle. Rearward CG, possibly a little closer. Now what's also important to understand, as you get a more and more nose-heavy plane, you can increase the power steering by sawing off or shortening the arms, or if you're using a handle with a bar, by moving the bar closer. If we had a handle with a bar, as the plane gets heavier, you want it closer. As the CG gets further back, you probably want it longer. But what happens is, when an airplane is designed, the designer will select the ratios for the bell crank to the horns, and all of that as a part of the airplane. And it's based on when you, the pilot, have to dial in your skill level into that system. This is probably the easiest and best way to make your skill level fit that airplane. Now, in the case of the Brodak Cardinal, if Bill were to balance at 15%, I would want him, and I don't know where he balanced it exactly, we'd have to check it, and check it accurately. We'd like to get the handle relatively open. Because Bill's an expert level flyer, we also have the choice that he can just pretty much have a wide range here. He probably could fly it at 20%, but a new guy, that this might be his first flapped airplane, he's going to want to stay nose heavy. So what you want to do is, you don't want to fly that nose heavy plane with a real small 4-inch handle spacing, and you don't want to take your expert level Paul Walker type of setup here and snap on a 5.5-inch EasyJust handle. You want to try to marry the CG of the plane to the handle spacing as a rough starting point for any basic trim. Now at some future time, the next time Bill and Noel are down here, one of the experiments, or Bill will probably do it on his own, we want to try taping the hinge lines. First off, a misconception a lot of people have is that, oh, my hinge line is nice and tight. And they look at it and they say, gee, it's relatively tight, no air can be getting through this. Well, but I'd rather you think of this, and once you get this concept, once you understand where this is going, it'll make sense. Picture a balloon. You have a child's balloon. You put a pinhole in it, what happens? Because there's air pressure inside and less out, it blows out almost instantly. Well, it's not as dramatic, but when you have a gap in the hinges here, imagine how many pinholes that is. Now, years ago, people used to, and maybe they still do, and I don't know, they said, oh, a better way to do it is if you have your hinges here. Let's pretend they only taped in between the hinges. I remember seeing that in print. And I tried that, and I didn't find any difference at all. What I'm suggesting is to try is taping the whole hinge line, just like glider people do. Bend the flap fully deflected. You can get hinge line tape from any source, several sources. I sell it. Many other people sell it. There's tape they use for gliders, tape they use for combat jobs. You want to deflect the control surface as far down as it'll go. Put the tape on. And you always want to make sure you're using a tape that you can take off. Now, the real high stick tape, if you were to use Scotch, the foggy Scotch-Brite, yeah, that'll seal a hinge line. But what happens when you go to get it off? It takes the paint off. Another trick, when you go to take, and John Brodak, I think gets the credit in my case anyway, when you want to get the tape off, heat it with a hairdryer. It'll usually come right off. But taping the hinge lines does a lot of things. For a plane that's real light, the benefit might be minimal. When a plane gets real heavy, where it really needs to work its air, work the airfoils, taping the hinge lines is like free lunch. There's almost never been, I wouldn't say never, because there's probably somebody somewhere that had a negative experience, but almost everybody I've ever seen that's taped hinge lines from that point in their life on, it's always taped. They never even bother without a taped hinge line. And if you have wide gaps in the hinge, if you can take a piece of 320 sandpaper and send it down through there, just imagine how much air is flowing through there at 50 miles an hour. It's like taking and putting a quarter-inch hole in a balloon. But anyway, so what I'm suggesting is the next step for Bill is going to be taping the hinge lines. That'll increase the corner without trading away the level flight. And that's always one of the things that early on you want to try, because if it works, it controls what's going to happen later on in the trim as we get into really, really fine-tuning this plane. Bill started with 60 foot lines, changed them a few times during the day. I think he was up to 64 feet at the end of the day. Another thing I found is by taping the hinge line shut, it usually will allow me to run a little bit of extra line, and the reason is that I found you can carry a little bit extra tip weight. Now many guys, and maybe I haven't done it as scientifically as other people, a lot of people have tried taping one hinge line, not the other one, half of one, not the other one, tail, not the elevators. And you could experiment what you think might work for you, but for starting, my guess is you just tape everything up. It's like equal panel planes. You make everything equal, now you got a good starting point. The other way, you've always got a lot of variable things, and you need a lot of time at the field to sort them out. And the purpose of this Brodak Cardinal that we're trimming is we want to make it that average skill level people can get this done really quick and get down to the field. And so in a lot of ways, I think that was a real successful part of our day, is by the end of the day, we were just getting fly. I think Bill, in my opinion, he just got tired at the end of the day. And we didn't have a single raindrop all day, and we had a great time. Now it looks like a little house finch this morning when she was off the nest. I climbed up on the countertop. We're eating in the dark every day now so we don't disturb her. I'm actually getting used to eating I'm reading my paper in the dark. And I don't know how long they incubate the eggs, but it looks like she has 3 eggs in there, and she's just sitting right, for all purposes, she could be right in our kitchen. And for Karen and I, it's a very, very entertaining, exciting thing to see that we're going to have baby birds here very soon. Maybe today, I don't know. Now after checking out our baby bird situation, one of the things Bill is going to be doing in the near future, and he'll probably do a lot of it, we're not going to see it, but we'll see the results and we'll read about them in Stunt News. Fine tuning. Once you have the plane in basic trim and you're happy with the way it's flying and it's the same upright and inverted, now you can start what I call, well, what I feel is the fun part, the props. The props are really going to be something that really determines to a great degree how this plane is going to fly. And I've broken it down, even though this could be broken down even more. Low RPM setups like, let's just pretend we had a Fox 35. And we all know a 10.6 seems to be the prop of choice. The engines that run in the mid-range, like the Brodak motor, the FPs, the Max FPs, Max S's. These are a little more powerful than a Fox 35 and typically run, and we found this to be true, a little bit lower pitch. Now, the real high RPM motors, for instance, like the Webras. Let's think of what some of the other motors that might go on this plane. Really high RPM motors that really want to run. If you were to power this, just as an example, if you were to power this with the little, and I'm not sure what the Thunder Tiger. jet, the road jet. These are engines that generally make more power at high RPM and usually will run a lower pitch prop. Now I'm only doing this in the most basic sense because this is not, we have videos dedicated to props. But I wanted to make my point is when you choose the powertrain or you pick the motor, you can decide basically on a low RPM classic standard motor, a mid-range motor which is going to give you a lot of choices, and a high RPM motor. And the prop pitch, just rough numbers here, and I've tried to keep this real simple. You can see what really happens here. As you increase the RPM or the choice of powertrain, the pitch of the prop is going to change. Now, if we were dealing with bigger engines, if we were dealing with Tiger 60s, let's say, Tiger 60 is relatively low RPM. Some of the motors that are Schnurley ported fall into that mid-range, and some of the high RPM, really high output engines, the PAs and the jets, fit into this category where you almost always, or some of the time, using a tuned pipe. So if you have this information, if you know how this works, here's the scenario you don't want to have. You don't want to run out and buy a higher, let's say a Weber, and we've done a lot with Webers. Tom Hampshire's real good with Webers. You don't want to bolt on a 10.6 or you're going for a rocket ride. You really don't want to have a Fox 35 turning a 10.4. That's not going to work. Those are the ones that you really want to avoid. And if you know that, and it's the motors in the middle that give you the most choices, and I think Bill has settled in on the APC props on his Brodak 40, but the same would apply, Carlos Serra with his FP Maxes, and some of the luck I've had with the OS Max S's that I had run in the B25, that mid-range power, 5-pitch props. If you know that ahead of time, boy, have you got a big head start on the guy that just buys a bunch of props and comes to the field. Now, since I first designed this kit, and we videotaped all the construction parts of it, things that might help other people, it's gone on to be, I think, relatively successful kit. Almost everybody that I know that's built one or that I've flown it seems to be a good basic aeroplane. Several variations, and we have plans for all of them to turn that same plane into a little Strega, a little Typhoon, a little Tsunami, or in this case, a Cardinal Evolution. And I wanted to thank Elliot Scott for drawing all those plans and making those plans available. It's really hard to imagine a project being more successful when I originally started it, and seeing how it evolved over the past years. I guess I'm really happy. I just am wondering if I could even be happier. It's really been a success in every way that this kind of a project can be a success. And here it is, the new Strega box top. Strega kits are going to be on the shelf very soon. We'll have them in stock by the time you get this video, hopefully, or maybe shortly after. This is the one that John Brodak built from the kit. And this is the one where everybody says I should have dyed my hair. Now here it is. It's a full 10 years later after this photo was shot. 9 years. And Strega is still flying. I guess that's a testament to a good design, good construction. Yeah, I hope the information on this tape and on all the tapes is making your involvement with the sport just a little more enjoyable. And I think that Strega kit is going to go on to set even better records of performance than the original Brodak Cardinal, but again, we're going to find out, and we're going to find out very soon. Well, thanks for joining us. Please share the tapes with all your friends, and if you see them out at the field struggling with some trim problem, loan them some videos or go over and help them, or do what you can to keep this thing alive, keep it growing. It's been growing by leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. Keep it growing. Coming on the next tape, I hope, is going to be a little special treat for everybody. Some real special stuff coming up. And of course, it won't be long. We'll be getting ready for Brodak's. But thanks again for joining us. And we got fuel pumps coming in this week for anybody who needs a new fuel pump. Anyway, see you on the next tape.